The corridor lights flickered as the alien girl stumbled forward. Her knees gave out, her arms hanging limply by her sides. She collapsed against the cold metal wall, gasping for air, her skin glowing with a faint, trembling blue hue. She lifted her gaze, locking eyes with the lone figure standing motionless ahead. A human. Her hand reached out, trembling. Then barely a whisper, her voice cut through the silence. "You broke me, human. I can't even stand now." A ripple of gasps spread through the corridor. Guards surged forward, medics trailing close behind, scanners scanning her body. No wounds, no fractures. Her body was intact, her strength seemingly undiminished. Yet she couldn't stand. Couldn't even raise her arms. Her scion turned slowly toward the human. Tall, silent, his face unreadable. He stepped back cautiously, taken aback by her words. But her gaze never left him. She was Shadara, a proud warrior race, fierce and unyielding. Daughter of the War Council. No one had ever seen her fall. Until now. "Who did this to you?" a guard demanded. Her lips parted softly. "Him." She pointed at the human. "Did he hurt you?" the medic asked, scanning again, confused. No answer. No expression. Only silence. Then her eyes shimmered with something unexpected. Not hatred, not pain, but confusion. And maybe something deeper. "Take him," the guard ordered. "Wait," the human finally spoke, voice calm but firm. "I never touched." "Earlier," a soldier snapped. Talvi shook her head slowly. "No, he didn't touch me like that." "Then what happened?" the captain asked, fists clenched, her voice uncertain. Talvi closed her eyes as memories flooded back. It began 2 weeks ago at Outpost 17, a remote human research station orbiting a dead moon. She was sent there to observe him. Raised to hate humans, taught they were dangerous, savage, incapable of trust. But he was different. His name was Silas, a maintenance officer with tired eyes and hands always busy. He rarely spoke, but he listened. He noticed. He fixed. Maybe he saw something broken inside her. At first she ignored him. Then, she watched him, and one day he spoke. "You look like you're waiting for something." "I'm waiting for this place to be over," she replied, voice cold. He smiled, not mocking, just quietly sad. A smile that lingered like an unanswered question. Started talking. Small things. Weather, stars, old wars. Then deeper things. Dreams, family, fear. He told her he once had a sister who vanished in the border war. She told him about her brother, lost in a failed radio. "Don't think we are that different, you know," he said once. That she had snapped back bit. Her heart had started changing. Slowly, like ice melting. And one night they had stood on the observation deck, watching a meteor storm. His hand brushed hers by accident, and a spark ran through her body. She felt heat in her veins, fire in her chest and her legs. Where weeks pulled away, ran from him, and never told anyone, till now, in the corridor, her body had collapsed. She could no longer stand, and the fire had returned, stronger than ever. "I am not sick," she whispered. "I am changing." "What do you mean?" the medic asked. I touched him, and my body began to react like it was waking up from sleep. Guards looked at each other, unsure what to do. Human Silas stood still, watching her, his face pale. "I swear I did nothing to harm her," he said again. Talvi opened her eyes once more and stared at him, her voice soft. "You did not harm me, but you broke something inside me, something old." A silence fell, tried to stand again, but her legs failed, at every yoni round her still confused. And then she whispered again, "I can't even stand now, and I don't know if I want to." The council chamber on her home world was cold, not from temperature, but from silence, the kind that came before storms. Talvi stood straight, her body covered in the traditional armor of the Shatara elite. Though under the surface, her bones ached, and her legs felt strained, soft. No one knew what was happening, not even hers. Remember the voice of her mother, stern, proud. "Do not speak to them. Do not look at them. They are beneath us." Had nodded as always, obeying the words carved into her mind since childhood. Humans were the Enemy, they were dangerous, weak liars. The Great War had ended with peace treaties, but the hatred was still alive in every breath of her people. But the human silence had not been what she expected. Was sent to Outpost 17 as a silent observer, a figure of honor, watching human behavior, judging, reporting, nothing more. It was a political move, a gesture of peace. But everyone knew it was a lie, a game of faces. Remembered the first time she saw Silas. He was on his knees fixing a broken data relay, his fingers stained with grease, his face tired from long shifts. He looked up at her, not with fear, not with awe, just with a quiet, not hello. He had Sage, had ignored him at first. Then she noticed he was always around, not watching her but working hard, never speaking unless spoken to, never loud, never angry. Fixed things, things others gave up on. He was a builder, not a destroyer. One day during a system glitch, she had found herself locked in the command room with him. Alarms ringing, lights flashing. No communication, just the two of them. Huh, he had laughed softly. Looks like we're stuck. Had looked at him coldly. Keep your distance. Of course, he said and backed away, hands up like surrender bit. Then the power returned. And as the lights flickered back on, she saw him standing there, not afraid, just watching her. Not as an enemy, not as a threat, just as someone curious. After that day, something shifted. Found herself near him more often, asking questions. Small ones like, "What are you building? What does that tool do?" And he would answer patiently, explaining with hands and words, showing her things, not secrets, just the simple beauty of fixing broken. Maddiness had been taught that humans were dirty, chaotic, but his tools were clean, his hands careful, his mind steady. One night she found him sitting under the stars outside the outpost. "You believe in destiny?" he asked, her voice loud, sharply looked at her then. "Maybe you believe in choice." Did not answer. They sat in silence, watching the sky, meteor streaking above, silent fire across the black. "When I touch certain wires, the machine wakes up," he said. "But if I cross the wrong ones, it breaks for good." "What does that mean?" she asked, scared. Looked at her and said softly, "Maybe some things are meant to be connected. Maybe some—" Another chest tightened. Her mind screamed danger, but her heart listened. That night she dreamed of fire. Not burning but warm. Of stars falling into her hands. Of something ancient opening inside her. The next day she avoided him, but her body ached, not from pain, but from absence, had never felt this before. Not desire, not love, not fear, but something old, or something primal. Her people had stories, long-forgotten stories of the firstborn who once bonded with outsiders and unlocked powers buried in their blush. Had always thought that myth, until the next time she touched his hand. It was by accident, a dropped tool. Her fingers brushed his skin, and her legs buckled. Her breath caught, her vision blurred. Inside her chest, something cracked open. Had fled from him, ran to her quarters, hid from everyone. Tried to control the change, but it was too late. Her body was no longer obeying her. Her thoughts were clouded. Her skin glowed with faint patterns unseen. But Forrest remembered the warnings, ancient genes activated by human contact. A bond that should never happen. A curse, they called it. But deep inside, she knew it was not a curse. It was truth. Had broken something, yes, but not her body, her chains. Though back in the chamber, her mother stared at her, eyes sharp. "You touched him, didn't you?" Did not answer. "You are not the first," her mother said. "There were others long ago. They were erased for what they did, for what they became." What did they become? To whisper more than Shadara, less than gods, her mother said, but always hunted, always Alanash. Felt her legs weaken again, not from pain or from weight, the weight of truth. In that moment she realized she could never go back. She would be exiled, or worse, but she could still walk, if not for herself, then for what she had become. Somewhere far from there, the human Silas waited, not knowing if she would return, not knowing he had triggered something ancient inside her. Deep down, he must have felt it too, a connection. The change, a beginning of something dangerous. And beautiful, the night was heavy with silence. To sat alone inside the observation chamber, stars drifted outside the glass like slow-falling snow. Her hands trembled as she stared at them, glowing faintly with soft blue lines, moving like veins of light. They had never done this before. Never in her life. S remembered the feeling again, the spark that touched, the sudden rush through her body. When her skin met his, it was like fire, but not pain, like heat inside her bones. Something buried deep had awakened, and it was growing stronger every hour. Her legs still felt weak. Her chest still burned with something that had no name. But now there were other signs too, whispers at the edge of her hearing, pulses of light across her vision, and dreams. Dreams that did not belong to her. She had seen old ships burning, falling from the skies, voices shouting in languages she did not know, faces of beings with human eyes. At Shadara, skin mixed and twisted. A war that was not in any record. A history of acid. And every time she woke, she found the glow brighter, the whispers louder, the pain sharper. Methane inside me shifted, she whispered to herself. I am not who I was. Tried to stand, her feet barely supported her, but she forced herself up and walked slowly toward the control panel. Her fingers hovered above it, and the lights flickered again. Just like before, when Silas had touched Hanno. That was not a coincidence, she thought. The power is reacting to me. Her hands touched the panel, and suddenly screens lit up without command, unlocking restricted files, showing hidden blueprints, ancient logs, symbols she had never seen before. She backed away, breathing hard. This is not normal. This is not... Outside the chamber, a soft voice spoke behind her. I thought I might find you. Haresh turned slowly. It was Silas, standing just beyond the door, holding a data pad in his hand. His eyes cautious, his stance gentle. Didn't mean to scare you, he said. You should not be here, she replied, but her voice was weaker than intended. No, he said. I just wanted to see if you were all right. Looked at him for a long moment, then said, Do I look all right to you? He hesitated, then said, Honestly, no. You look like someone carrying a weight too heavy for one soul. Looked away, biting back the wave of emotion rising inside her. I think I'm changing, she said softly. I think something is waking up. He nodded slowly. I feel it too. When you left, I felt something missing. Not just your presence, but like a part of me went quiet. She stared at him, his words stirring something deeper. They told me your kind is cursed, she whispered. They told me your kind is dangerous. He replied with a small smile. Maybe we both were lied to. She laughed, a bitter sound. Maybe. He stepped closer slowly, not touching her, just being near. And again, the air around them shimmered like heat waves, soft and strange. The lights above flickered, and the ground hummed faintly. Do you feel that? She asked. Every time I'm near you, Silas said. It's like the air itself remembers something old. Her breathing quickened as the pulse in her chest grew louder, stronger, almost out of control. What is happening to us? She asked, scared. He shook his head. I don't know, but I think we are triggering something ancient, something hidden in both our species. She took another step forward, drawn to him, her body weak, but her heart stronger. Do you trust me? She asked. She is Ski. Already do, he answered. Reached out and touched his hand again. And this time the world exploded in light, chamber filled with swirling energy. The walls pulsed, the glass shook, and both of them fell to their knees, surrounded by blue symbols dancing in the air, spinning faster and faster. Visions hit them both at once, shared memories that were not their own. A great machine buried beneath the desert. A woman with Shadara tattoos holding hands with a human man. A child born with glowing eyes running through a metal city, and a voice whispering in the stars, they are the bridge, they are the key. And then it all went dark. When Talvi woke, her head rested on Silas's chest, his arms wrapped protectively around her. Her body no longer in pain, her legs still weak but steady, her skin still glowing, but calm. Sat up slowly, looking at him. His eyes opened and met hers. Was sad, didn't we? She said. He nodded. Whatever this is, it's not just about us. It's something bigger. Something inside me shifted, she said again. But now she knew it was not a curse. It was destined. The sky above the outpost darkened with silent thunder, clouds that had no rain. The atmosphere felt strange, too heavy, too thick, like something old was crawling through the air. Toby stood on the edge of the landing platform, her hands still glowing. Fate blew, her legs steady but not the same as before. She was not the same as before. Behind her, the metal doors hissed open, and Silas stepped out slowly. He did not say a word, just stood beside her, staring into the endless black. "They're watching," she said softly. "I feel them," he answered. "My people will come for me," she said. "They will not understand what is happening. They will try to control it or destroy it." He turned to her and asked, "What exactly is happening, Talvi?" "What is this?" Looked down at her hands and said, "I found something in our ancient records. Long before the Great War, long before we hated your kind, there was another time. A secret time." She turned to face him, eyes glowing now with soft forever. "There was once a bond between humans and my kind, a bond written in blood and light, a shared energy that could reshape minds and matter together. We were builders, creators, peacekeepers. But something changed, something was hidden." "What happened?" Silas asked quietly. "They feared us," she whispered. "The elders, the rulers, they saw the bond was too powerful. They saw that if humans and Shadara ever united completely, they would lose control. So they broke the alliance. They rewrote the records. They started the war to keep us apart." He stared at her, his face slowly shifting with realization. "So everything we were taught was a lie?" She said, "A lie buried so deep we forgot it ourselves. Until now, until—" His voice lowered. "And why me? Why now?" "We do not know," she answered. "Maybe because you were the only one who treated me as equal. Not enemy, not tool, just a person. Maybe that unlocked something in me, something sleeping for centuries." They stood in silence again, the wind cold around them. Then the alarm blared, red lights flashing, the warning sound deep and sharp. "Is that?" he asked. She looked toward the sky and her face turned pale. "They're here," she said. "My people." A large vessel broke through the clouds, hovering above the outpost, dark and silent. Then another followed, and then another. 3 warships, no signals, no communication. Talvi grabbed Silas's arm. "Come, we must hide. Now." They ran through the corridors of the outpost, alarms still blaring, doors locking behind them, systems glitching as if reacting to Talvi's presence. The glow from her skin, brighter now, almost pulsing with each heartbeat. They reached the deep core of the station, where the old tech was stored, machines from before the war. "Long forgotten," he muttered. Silas touched one panel and looked at her. "We can't run forever. What do they want from you?" "They want to erase this," she said. "They want to cut the connection between us before others see it, before others remember the truth." A loud crash shook the ceiling, dust falling from the pipes. "They are breaking in," she said. "We don't have much," pointed to a hidden chamber. "This way." Inside the chamber was a large round device, metal and crystal, with ancient carvings in both Shadara and human language. "I found this months ago," he said. "I could never power it on until—" Novi stepped closer. Her hands hovered over the surface, and the device lit up instantly, spinning slowly, the air shifting around them. "What is it?" she asked. "A memory vault," he replied. "Maybe it holds the Her fingers touched the surface and the room filled with light. Visions poured out like liquid time. People from the past, Shadara and human together, building a city in space, sharing knowledge, sharing life. And then came the fire, the betrayal of the war, and finally the silence. The memory ended, and Talvi fell to her knees, her body shaking. "It was all true," she whispered. "Everything they told us was a lie." Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed closer, weapons charging, orders shouted in harsh alien tumbler. "We have to go now," Silas said, lifting her gently. "I can't go," she said weakly. "They will never stop chasing me. Not until they erase every trace of this." He looked into her eyes. "Then I won't leave." They ran again, deeper into the tunnels, old metal groaning around them, systems flickering, lights dying, the entire station reacting to her energy like a living thing. Suddenly, a blast hit the wall behind them, and guards poured in, shouting, "Halt! Stop! Where you are!" Silas turned protectively around her, but Talvi stepped forward, her hands glowing like fire, her voice rising, "You lied to us! You kept us in chains, but no more!" And then the room exploded with light, the guard's frozen face eyes wide, as the glow from her skin spread, into the walls, into the air, into the very bones of the outpost. Silas pulled her back as the energy surged, walls shaking, machines screaming with power. She looked at him, tears in her eyes, and whispered, "They broke the truth, but now the truth is breaking them." The tunnels were dark and narrow, filled with old dust and forgotten metal beams. The air was thick with static as Talvi and Silas ran deeper into the lower levels of the outpost. Above them, echoing footsteps, weapons charging, Shadara voices barking orders over comms, sealing off exits, tracking movement every second. "They know where we're going," Silas said, breathing hard. "They're scanning everything." "Then we must become something they cannot track," Talvi replied, her voice calm. But something inside her was no longer quiet. Her skin still glowed. Her heartbeat still echoed with a rhythm of energy running through her veins. She could feel the outpost responding to her, each door unlocking before she reached it, each panel lighting up at her presence. They reached an old maintenance shaft filled with broken panels and shattered drones. Talvi raised her hand, and the debris moved, clearing the path without touching. Silas stared. "You didn't even touch anything." "You do not need to touch any more," she said softly. "The bond is inside me now. It listens, it responds, it grows stronger." He helped her down into the lower shaft. As the lights flickered above, a sudden tremor shook the walls. The enemy was getting closer. "I do not understand why your people would fear this power," he said. "This could save lives, stop wars." "They do not want peace," she replied. "They want control. Peace cannot be controlled. It can only be shared. And that scares them more than any weapon." A loud sound echoed through the shaft, followed by a metallic hiss, then a strange clicking noise. Talvi froze. "Hunters," she whispered. "What are they?" Silence. "Soldiers?" "Not machines," she answered. "Something in between, bred to track silence, bred to erase." They moved quickly, crawling through the shadows, not walking, but slithering, their limbs mechanical, their eyes red and cold, their minds empty of mercy. They did not ask questions. They only obeyed. Talvi took Silas's hand. "Run, now." They moved fast through the tunnels, her energy pushing all doors open, her voice guiding the path. Machines around them flickered and sparked, reacting to her presence. But the hunters were faster. Every step they took, the shadows behind them moved closer. Every turn they made, the sound followed, deadly. They reached the engine core, a massive room with broken lights and shattered supports. Talvi stopped. "Here, we make our stand." "We cannot fight them," Silas said. "Not without weapons." "I am the weapon now," she whispered, and turned to face the coming danger. The first hunter crawled into view. Then more, their bodies twisted and sharp, their faces covered with masks of bone. They raised their arms and pointed directly at Talvi. "It's locked," one of them hissed. But before they could fire, Talvi stepped forward and raised both her hands. The light around her exploded in a wave of raw power, smashing into the hunters and sending them flying into the walls. The air screamed with energy. Silas ducked behind a console, shielding his face from the storm. When it ended, Talvi stood alone in the center of the room, her body glowing like a star. The hunters broken around her. The walls cracked from the blast. Silas stepped forward. "Are you all right?" She nodded slowly, but her eyes were distant. "I did not know I could do that." "Your body is changing fast," he said. "We need to understand it before it consumes you." She looked down at her hands. "I am no longer Shadara, not full." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then what do you think you're becoming?" "What they feared the most," she answered. "The bridge between two worlds, the proof that we were never meant to be apart." They moved again, leaving the broken hunters behind, finding an old escape corridor that led to the surface. But as they reached the final hatch, they found it sealed, locked from the outside. A trap, Silas said. Novi replied, not trapped, just tested. She placed her hand on the hatch and whispered a word in the old tongue, a word that came not from memory, but from deep instinct. The hatch groaned and slowly opened, light from the outside pouring in. They stepped into the open air of the dead moon, the sky black, the ground silver with dust, the stars above watching in silence. Behind them, the sound of more soldiers, more hunters, more death. Now he was scared. Run, she said. We survive. We find others who remember. You think others will believe you? He asked. Not at first, she said, but they will feel it too. The shift, the truth. It cannot stay buried forever. As they moved across the rocks, Talvi looked up at the stars again and whispered, they will hunt me until my last breath, but I am no longer afraid of falling. The cave walls glowed faintly with the light from Talvi's body. The marks on her skin were no longer random. They moved in patterns, symbols of an old language lost to both her kind and his. She sat cross-legged, breathing slowly, her eyes closed. The air around her still, but not silent. Energy hummed softly like a song just beyond hearing. Silas watched her from the other side of the cave, trying not to disturb her. Meditating, focusing, controlling whatever was growing inside her. It had been 3 days since they escaped the outpost. 3 days hiding in the mountains of the dead moon, where scanners failed and ships dared not follow. The terrain was ancient and untouched, filled with ruins that whispered of a forgotten time. He had seen her change more in those 3 days than he could explain. Sometimes she would lose control, the light from her skin growing too bright, stones vibrating under her breath, walls cracking without her touching them. And sometimes she would cry silently, her body shaking as if torn between two worlds. She opened her eyes and looked at him, her voice tired but steady. I am learning. How do you feel? He asked. Different, she said, not just in body but in thought. I see memories that are not mine. I hear voices when I sleep. I feel something rising inside me, like a river behind a dam, and the dam is starting to crack. He walked over and sat beside her. We need to understand it before it breaks you. She nodded slowly, but I am afraid of what I might be becoming. He looked at her with quiet strength. Whatever you become, I will not leave you. She turned her face toward him and whispered, do you really mean that? Even if I become something that frightens everyone? Even if I lose control? Yes, he said without hesitation. Even then. They sat in silence for a while until the wind changed, and Talvi stood suddenly, her head turning toward the sky. They are coming, she said, her voice low and grim. Not soldiers this time. Not hunters. Something worse. What? Silas asked, standing. My family, she said. The elders, the ones who decide the fate of bloodlines. They do not want to capture me. They want to erase me. Then we run again, he said. No, she said firmly. This time we do not run. She walked toward the edge of the cave, raising her arms, the symbols on her skin pulsing with blue fire. She closed her eyes and whispered to the stars, if you remember me, then show me the way. A beam of light shot down from the sky, a slow glowing spiral that opened a path in the rock, revealing a hidden chamber below the cave, old and filled with relics untouched by time. Silas followed her down, his heart pounding. What is this place? She said, this is where it began. They walked through the chamber, ancient walls covered in carvings, showing humans and Shadara standing together, building together, fighting side by side against something huge, something dark. Not each other, but a third force now long forgotten. They fear this unity, she said, because it made them powerless. At the center of the chamber was a device shaped like a sphere, floating in the air, silent, awaiting. What is it? Silas asked. A mirror for the soul, she replied. If I touch it, it will show my true self, what I am becoming. Are you sure you want it? No, she said, but I must. She placed her hands on the sphere, and the light consumed her. Her body lifted into the air, her eyes closed. The cave filled with sound, the air thick with power. Silas stepped back, unable to breathe, unable to look away. He saw visions then, flashes of her future, of her rising above cities, speaking words that changed law, stopping wars with a glance, feared by leaders, worshipped by outcasts, her voice echoing across space. And through it all, he was beside her, always beside her. The light vanished, and she fell into his arms, her breathing fast, her eyes wide. "I saw it," she whispered. "I saw everything." "What did you see?" "I am not just a bridge. I am a catalyst. My existence will force change, and change always demands sacrifice." "What kind of sacrifice?" "They will let me live," she said, "but only if I give them you." Silas stared at her silently. "They are not afraid of you," she said. "They are afraid that you are the key and I am just the door." "Then you must choose," he said quietly. "I already have," she said, holding his hand tighter. "They can take everything else, but not you." The sky outside turned red as the elder ship arrived, massive and silent, its shadow swallowing the valley below. Talvi looked up, her eyes glowing brighter than ever, her voice steady and fierce. "Let them come." The sky above the valley cracked open as the elder ship descended, slow and silent like a floating mountain, its surface covered in ancient symbols, its engines humming with the sound of judgment. Talvi stood at the edge of the cliff, her body glowing with soft, blue fire, her hair lifted by the wind, her eyes fixed on the massive shadow blocking out the stars. Silas stood beside her, silent, calm, ready. They came without warning. No declaration, no army, just a single transport ship landing quietly before them. Then three figures emerged, cloaked in silver, the high elders of the Shadara, the ones who never left the throne chambers, the ones whose words became law. Talvi, daughter of the War Council, first of the ancient blood, the one who broke the silence, the one who touched the human. The first spoke in a voice cold and sharp. "You stand before us, broken and awake," they said. "Your power is a danger. Your path is a curse. Your bond is forbidden." "I am not broken," Talvi replied. "I am whole for the first time. You were chosen to uphold the bloodline, not to shame it, not to betray it." "I betrayed nothing," she said. "I uncovered a truth. You buried it." The second elder stepped forward, eyes hard. "The bond has awakened something inside you, but it is unstable, dangerous. It must be removed." "And if I refuse," she asked, "then the bond must be severed by force and the human must die." Silas said nothing, but his hand reached for hers and held it tight. The third elder stepped forward, a softer voice, yet more terrifying. "If you let go of him now, if you return to us, we will allow you to live. We will erase your memory. We will make you pure again." She looked at Silas, then at the Scoitan, then back at the elders, and said softly, "I do not want to be pure anymore." The wind grew louder around them. The ground trembled as Talvi stepped forward, light rising from her skin. The ruins behind her began to shift, glowing symbols rising from the stone. The ancient chamber below the cave now awake and watching. "I saw the past," she said. "I saw the future. You were not afraid of war. You were afraid of unity. You were afraid that if we stood side by side, the people would see what real peace looks like." "You are wrong," the first elder said. "Unity is case. Order must be preserved." "No," she replied. "Fear must be erased, and you built your kingdom on fear." "Then you have chosen death," they said. "So be it," she said. The sky shattered with light as the energy from her body exploded upward, meeting the ship above, cracking its shield with pure force. The elders raised their hands, summoning barriers of thought and power. But Talvi's voice cut through them like thunder. "You broke me. You tried to chain me. You lied to me, but he set me free. He showed me what it means to fail, to trust, to stand. Not for myself, but for something bigger." Silas stepped beside her, the chamber behind them now glowing brighter than the sun. Machines waking, codes unlocking, a voice from the past echoing through time. "He is the key. He is the anchor. Together they are the balance." The elders stumbled back, their power fading against the storm of truth rising around them. The ship above trembled, the runes across its hull blinking, uncertain, afraid. This is not an attack, Talvi said. This is a reminder. We were always meant to evolve. We were always meant to walk together, not apart. The storm calmed. Slowly the light softened. Talvi lowered her arms and the sky cleared. The elder ship rose without sound and drifted away into the stars. They did not speak again. They did not threaten. They had seen what she had become, and they knew they could not stop her. Hours later, Talvi stood on the same cliff, the sun rising across the valley, her legs steady, her heart calm. "You remember what you said to me the first day we met?" she asked. He said, "You look like someone waiting for something." She smiled. "I was waiting to be broken." He looked at her, confused. "Broken? So that I could rebuild myself," she said in a whisper. "Stronger, wiser, free." He held her hand. They looked out at the sky. "What happens now?" "We build," she said. "For real this time. Not with fear, not with lies, but with truth. And maybe others will follow, maybe not. But it begins here." For the first time in the long silence of the stars, her voice carried. They walked through the chamber, ancient walls covered in carvings, showing humans and Shadara standing together, building together, fighting side by side against something huge, something dark. Not each other, but a third force, now long forgotten. "They fear this unity," she said, "because it made them powerless." At the center of the chamber was a device, shaped like a sphere, floating in the air, silent, awaiting. "What is it?" Silas asked. "A mirror for the soul," she replied. "If I touch it, it will show my true self, what I am becoming." "Are you sure you want it?" "No," she said, "but I must." She placed her hands on the sphere, and the light consumed her. Her body lifted into the air, her eyes closed. The cave filled with sound, air thick with power. Silas stepped, much unable to breathe, unable to look away. He saw visions then, flashes of her future, of her rising above cities, speaking words that changed law, stopping wars with a glance, feared by leaders, worshipped by outcasts. Her voice echoing across space. And through it all, he was beside her, always beside her. The light vanished, and she fell into his arms, her breathing fast, her eyes wide. "I saw it," she whispered. "I saw everything." "What did you see?" "I am not just a bridge, I am a catalyst. My existence will force change, and change always demands sacrifice." "What kind of sacrifice?" "They will let me live," she said, "but only if I give them you." Silas stared at her silently. "They are afraid of you," she said. "Afraid that you are the key and I am just the door." "Then you must choose," he said quietly. "I already have," she said, holding his hand tighter. "They can take everything else, but not you." The sky outside turned red as the elder ship arrived, massive and silent, its shadow swallowing the valley below. Talvi looked up, her eyes glowing brighter than ever, her voice steady and fierce. "Let them come." The sky above the valley cracked open as the elder ship descended, slow and silent like a floating mountain. Its surface covered in ancient symbols, its engines humming with the sound of judgment. Talvi stood at the edge of the cliff, her body glowing with soft blue fire, her hair lifted by the wind, her eyes fixed on the massive shadow blocking out the stars. Sela stood beside her, HFY, silent, calm, ready. They came without warning, no declaration, no army, just a single transport ship landing quietly before them. Then three figures emerged, cloaked in silver. The high elders of the Shadara, the ones who never left the throne chambers, the ones whose words became law. Talvi, daughter of the war council, first of the ancient blood, the one who broke the silence, the one who touched the human. The first spoke in a voice cold and sharp. "You stand before us, broken and awake," they said. "Your power is a danger. Your path is a curse. Your bond is forbidden." "I am not broken," Talvi replied. "I am whole for the first time. You were chosen to uphold the bloodline, not to shame it, not to betray it." "I betrayed nothing," she said. "I uncovered a truth. You buried it." The second elder stepped forward, eyes hard. "The bond has awakened something inside you, but it is unstable, dangerous. It must be removed." "And if I refuse?" she asked. Then the bond must be severed by force, and the human must die. Silas said nothing, but his hand reached for hers and held it tight. Lies. The third elder stepped forward, a softer voice, yet more terrifying. If you let go of him now, if you return to us, we will allow you to live. We will erase your memory. We will make you pure again. She looked at Silas, then at the sky, then back at the elders and said softly, I do not want to be pure anymore. The wind grew louder around them. The ground trembled as Talvi stepped forward, light rising from her skin. The ruins behind her began to shift, glowing symbols rising from the stone. The ancient chamber below the cave, now awake and watching. I saw the past, she said. I saw the future. You were not afraid of war. You were afraid of unity. You were afraid that if we stood side by side, the people would see what real peace looks like. You are wrong, and the first elder said. Unity is chaos. Order must be preserved. No, she replied. Fear must be erased. And you built your kingdom on fear. Then you have chosen death, they said. So be it, she said. The sky shattered with light as the energy from her body exploded upward, meeting the ship above, cracking its shield with pure force. The elders raised their hands, ancient gestures wrapped in layers of thought and power. But Talvi's voice cut through it all like thunder. You broke me, you tried to chain me, you lied to me, but he set me free. Her voice grew, steady and unshaken. He showed me what it means to fail, to trust, to stand, not just for myself, but for something greater. Sela stepped beside her, unwavering. Behind them, the chamber pulsed with radiant energy, brighter than any sun. Machines stirred to life, codes unlocked with a hum that echoed through the bones of the ship. And then, a voice, ancient and distant, rang through the room, pulled forward from time itself. He is the key. He is the anchor. Together they are the balance. The elders staggered back, their power flickering beneath the rising storm of truth. Above, the great ship trembled. The glowing runes etched along its hull pulsed wildly, uncertain, unmoored, afraid. This is not an attack, Talvi said, her tone unwavering. This is a reminder. We were always meant to evolve. We were always meant to walk together, not apart. The storm eased. The light softened. Talvi lowered her arms. Above, the sky cleared. The elder's ship lifted in silence, drifting into the stars like an echo losing its voice. They did not threaten. They did not return. They had seen what she had become, and they knew. They could no longer stop her. Hours passed. Talvi stood atop a cliff as the sun crept across the valley. Her stance was steady now, her heart still. Do you remember what you said the day we met? She asked softly. Silas looked at her, brow furrowed. You look like someone waiting for something. She smiled. I was, she said. I was waiting to be broken. He looked at her, puzzled. Broken? Her voice dropped to a whisper. So I could rebuild myself, stronger, wiser, free. He reached for her hand. She didn't flinch. They stood together, eyes on the open sky. What happens now? He asked. She answered without hesitation. We build, for real this time. Not with fear, not with lies, but with truth. She glanced at the horizon as if searching for a sign. Maybe others will follow, maybe they won't. But it begins here. And for the first time, beneath the vast silence of the stars, her voice carried.